Hello, today we're talking about chapter one of the essentials of business communication. And to be honest, this chapter contains so many things that I would like to take the time to talk to you about that this recording session would be unduly long. So I'm basically picking my way through important points because we realize that business communications are key to our success in the business world. And of course, today we have so many different kinds of communications and ways to communicate that being fluent with several of those takes quite a bit of effort. First of all, we want to think about how communication skills improve our career prospects and how we can use those to succeed in today's digital age workplace. Most businesses or most job requirements today will have some requirements concerning communication skills, whether it's Microsoft Office or whether it is the ability to use any of the other tools that we have at hand. So there's quite a lot of different aspects of the communication world. But even if you're not in a place of, say, an executive assistant or everyone today, you even in applying for jobs, you no longer have the luxury of uh, basically of even filling out an application without you can use a computer. So those things are important. Uh, Communications are very complex. They are your path to success. They are a great commodity now more than ever in the past. And they are something that anyone can learn. I have friends who they're in their 90s who are doing email and are texting and tweeting and all the other things that we do in this very digital age. So it is something that most people can learn, and they simply have to take the time to learn that in order to become better skilled for the world that you live in. One of the realities of our day is that you will be probably going to school for the rest of your life. I often tell my students in the 1880s, you could get one college degree and you pretty well knew everything there was to know in the world of knowledge. The day that we live in, knowledge now doubles every 2.5 years. So that means everything we know today, 2.5 years from now, will be twice as much. And we have micro majors today that cover only a very small segment of the field. And there's so much information that you constantly have to update your credentials, go back to school. And communications are very much like that as well. You have to constantly stay abreast of what you know and how you use that in the business world. But communication skills are your ticket to being able to work today. Most desirable competencies in the business world, in the eyes of the employer, have to do with technology and your ability to use that. It is critical to your being effective, to you having an effective job placement that works for you, to your performance, to your career advancement, and it will lead you in places that you will never go without you have some abilities to participate. So, what are these communication skills? We have old traditional skills that 20 years ago were the means of our success in the business world, like reading, listening skills, nonverbal skills, the ability to speak and write. Those were all and have been the traditionally important skills down through the years. But now we have to be media savvy. We have to use good judgment online and in a world where everything is kept, everything is monitored, everything is visible. And we have to work to maintain a positive image and a positive presence. Most people do not realize that uh, employers now check your Facebook to see what kind of things they can tell about your personality, where you go, the people you're friends with, what your political positions are. Most people just take Facebook at face value, to pardon the pun, and never realize how important it has become in the business world because you are an extension of your employer's reputation. And as such, they have every right to check you out and to thoroughly investigate and vet you before they hire you for a job. In the digital revolution, which we have been in well into now probably a decade, Writing matters more than ever. Online media requires more of it, not less of it. And messages travel instantly now around the world to potentially large audiences. And it also allows teams to work collaboratively, even when they're physically apart. We live in the day when so many now work from home and they work on teams. And so they're able through Skype or through a host of other media are able to host face-to-face meetings with each other. We no longer have to travel to a physical location to meet. And writing has become a larger and larger part of uh, the world that we live in, and from emails to texting to whatever. And so it's all the more reason that we have to be very careful about how we do things, because what people see of our abilities and our education and all those things is now from whatever we write or what kind of materials we turn out. Social media is playing an increasingly more prominent role in business. Life-changing critical judgments about people now are based more and more upon their writing, the things that they say. And the reality is that anything you put on the internet is going to be there forever. Uh, Willard Marriott, the executive chairman of Marriott Corporation, says to succeed in today's workplace, young people need more than basic reading and math skills. They need substantial content knowledge and information technology skills, advanced thinking skills, flexibility to adapt to change, and interpersonal skills to succeed in multicultural, cross-functioning teams. If ever there was a statement pregnant with truth, it's that one. As we think about in the past how easily it was, if you had a good basic high school education, you could go far because you learned to read, you learned some math. So much now depends upon very complicated set of skills, being able to use those, being flexible to adapt to change. I worked for BMW for 10 years at BMW Manufacturing here in my home city in corporate communication. Their mantra was very simple. The only thing constant about BMW is change. And that was very true. Sometimes that change occurred every hour, sometimes it occurred every 5 minutes. But the business world today has to be very adaptable to that change, or else you're not going to survive in the rat race that has become international business. So how does the digital revolution affect you? Even technical fields require that you know something about communication skills. Businesses use a variety of media and messages just in advertising alone. Things like Craigslist or Facebook or Amazon or eBay. All of these have arisen in recent years and have become major players in business areas. Professional business like writing is in your future because people will judge you by something as simple as a message you put on a billboard outside your business. And so it's important for you to have these abilities to be able to succeed. There are certain skills that employers want. Excellent oral and written communication skills are important. Critical thinking, analytical reasoning are important. The ability to work in teams, unblemished social media presence, and professionalism and the work ethic are all important. I would like to say something about the ability to work in teams because it is a huge thing in the average business community, and that is that there's no I in team. You must learn to work with others, and you need to be able to access information quickly and on point, and that's a very critical thing to success in the business world. The important thing for you also to consider is that your education drives your income. There are certain advantages to a college degree that make them something you cannot do without. Over the lifetime of a college earner, you're going to make much more money than say the person who doesn't have a college degree. Person that doesn't have a high school diploma is pretty much left out of the mix because they're not allowed. They're not even able to get the lowest level of jobs. There are less unemployment among college graduates. and there's a wider variety of career options for you to access. And you get access to the highest paying, fastest growing careers will always be those that have to do with your college degree. So, how do you meet the challenges of the information age? That's probably the biggest question that you have in your mind in taking this communications course. How do I navigate that? Especially if you're an older student, you're starting with this late in life. I didn't have the advantage myself of having computer training. Basically, what I know about computers, I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks, and as I often say, banging my head against the wall. But you can learn it. But there are significant trends that are coming because of this information age, and you need to be aware of those. Communication technologies are rapidly changing. I waited for a long time in the computer realm to buy a laptop because I was hoping things would slow down and the technology would slow down and I could get one that would last me longer than 6 months before it's outdated. I eventually figured out that's not going to happen, that I might as well just give it up and dive in and go for it. But communication technologies, as you can tell from your cell phone, change about every 6 months, and the latest and greatest is always out there leading the way. And so it's important that you feel comfortable with technology. Self-directed work groups and virtual teams are now the important part of the business world. Most employees run their company through teams, and then most people run their virtual teams through the computer system and through the internet and through virtual meetings. There is a growing workforce diversity that we have to contend with today. It's not just people you grew up with, people you went to high school with, but now you have people from all walks of life, from all ethnicities, all language variabilities, and these are very much a sign of the day that we live in. We now have a global economy. It's no longer a local economy, not even a national economy, but we work globally in trade and sales. And so there is some aspect in most jobs that you're going to have to be kind of international in your approach. You no longer have territorial offices. People are alive and working around the world 24/7. There are many people in the US who go to business meetings at 2:30 in the morning for a virtual meeting with someone in Hong Kong or other countries where they are in the middle of their business day while we're sleeping. And you don't have near the management hierarchies that you once did. Most of that has disappeared because a lot of white collar jobs are replaced with things computers can do and do them more efficiently. And there is a renewed emphasis on ethics today. How do you remain ethical in this changing world? There are a lot of barriers, and as we talked about the things that employers are looking for, I think one of the most important that we need to talk about is this idea of effective listening, because it is something that you need to work on in building your listening skills. You cannot afford to not pay attention to what people are saying and what's going on around you. Listening is a career critical skill. The reality is that most of us are really poor listeners. And poor listening skills affect your personal relationships with your partner. If you don't listen to them, then you're not going to have a very good relationship. So much more is the fact that poor listening skills affect professional relationships. We're told that we listen only with a 25 to 50% efficiency. And that leads us to costly errors that will cost our company money. And so it is vitally important that we pay attention, that we learn to listen, that we take notes, and there are a lot of things that will help us in doing that. We'll talk about that. There are a lot of barriers to effective listening. There are physical barriers. Sometimes you can't hear well because of noise or a wall or whatever the distraction. There are nonverbal distractions that happen. Things going on in your head, your mind is somewhere else. Maybe it's not somebody talking so much as it you thinking. There is, thought of speed, the speed of thinking. There are language problems sometimes in this very international world that we live in. Maybe that teacher or that business person doesn't speak your language very well, and as a result, you have to struggle in order to listen. Grandstanding, which often happens in a team environment. One person has all the answers and never gives anyone else a chance to speak, and so after a while, you just simply stop listening. There are ways to fake attention. You can look like you're paying attention when really your mind is 1,000 miles away. There's all kind of psychological barriers. Maybe you don't like the person speaking. Maybe they've done something to you that you don't appreciate. And so these are barriers to us listening effectively. So how are we going to build powerful listening skills? These are key, and I hope that you'll take these 10 and you will think about them, that you'll memorize them, that you will consider ways that you can incorporate them into your daily plan because they're so important. Number one, stop talking and let others speak. If we could simply uh, take this one to heart, it would make a major difference in how we listen. You cannot talk and listen at the same time. Secondly, control external and internal distractions. Find a place where you can listen, close the door where it's quiet, cut off the cell phone. The major problem in this day with our technology is that it constantly monitors and interferes with our life and makes it very difficult to not be distracted by emails and texting and phone calls. Sometimes you just have to turn the phone off and listen. Be receptive and keep an open mind. Most people, when they are listening to someone else, instead of being receptive and keeping an open mind, are too busy trying to formulate what they're going to say next to the point they don't hear what the other person's saying. Listen for main points. One of the ways to help your listening skills would be to take notes. Always have a notepad. Always jot down main points. And if necessary, repeat them back to the person to be sure you heard what they are trying to say. Capitalize on lag time. When there is a break or a lull in the conversation, look over your notes. Maybe you ask the person questions or whatever. Listen between the lines. People often don't verbalize what they're saying. Sometimes you can pick up with nonverbal cues that a person is wounded or hurt or upset or whatever, but it helps you to understand them. Judge ideas and not appearances. It's another majorly important thing. Sometimes we don't give people a chance because we've judged them based on what they look like, what their ethnicity is, what their language might be, or that, I've actually sat in classrooms teaching when a teacher was addressing the class who was from another country, whose English skills maybe weren't the best, and immediately students stop paying attention because they just assume that he has nothing to say that they can understand or that they want to hear. Stop interrupting. Let someone have their say. The same way you want someone to listen to you, you should listen to others. I mentioned number 9, take selective notes to ensure retention, that you can hold on to it, and provide feedback and confirmation. It's not a bad idea to go over the things you just heard. Am I hearing you correctly? You're saying this and this and this. Is that the point you're trying to get across? There is a major disconnect between the speaker and the hearer. All these things we've talked about are part of that. And it's important for you to make sure that you have heard what the speaker wants you to hear. That's vitally important. So listening skills are of supreme importance. Let's talk a little bit more about nonverbal communication and how you improve on that. Nonverbal communication skills many times speak so loudly that the person can't hear what you are saying. And that's vitally important. So they carry some very powerful meanings with them. Nonverbal communication includes a lot of things, unwritten and unspoken messages, both internal and unintentional. And nonverbal cues can speak louder, as I've said, than words. People will hear those, they will sense those, they will become what they leave with more so than what you said. Nonverbal behaviors that send messages, like eye contact. The most disconcerting thing as a teacher that I know is to have a student in the classroom who will sit and roll his eyes over something you said. That sends a nonverbal cue that you're not interested, that you suspect the teacher of lying. Facial expressions are another dead giveaway. There was a TV program years ago called Lie to Me about a guy who had the ability to look at a person's facial and body language and tell whether they were really lying or not. There's a lot of discussion over that TV program in the media and in the psychological world and the educational world. Posture and gestures say everything. A person that slumps in his seat and sighs and makes all these gestures and keeps looking at their watch, what does that say to you about their interest in what you're talking about? Have you ever tried to give a presentation, preach a message, teach a lesson with someone like that? How aggravating is that? I was a pastor for 15 years. I had a guy in my congregation that if you went over 12 o'clock, he would hold his arm up so that I could see his watch, and he would shake it like he was thinking it was going to stop. All right, it had stopped. And that, I didn't know what time it was. Time, space, and territory give a lot of nonverbal cues. Where you hold a meeting is important. The eye appeal of business documents, whether they're well done, whether they're wrinkled or crinkled. I did years ago, I took a public speaking class and we had to do a team exercise. And we actually did a mock demonstration of a good uh, employment interview and a not so good. And it was so interesting. The girl who played the interviewee managed to have her resume all crumpled up in a bag. And so she pulls it out to give it to the interviewer, and it's all messed up, and she's trying to smooth it out. I mean, what kind of first impression do you think that gives to an employer? Or that you're 5 minutes late, or that when you stand up and shake hands with them for the first time, you don't make eye contact. You only have one opportunity to make a good first impression. Don't forget that. And no matter how long you are around that person or work with them or anything else, you will never be able to recover from that. And of course, your personal appearance. I could spend a great deal of time on this one, and I would love to do that because it is so vital. I am amazed at the way people dress to go to a job interview. They look like they just got out of bed. They don't comb their hair. They don't put on clean clothes. They don't put on nicer clothes. They don't dress up. Let me tell you, that makes an impression. Regardless, how you dress determines your attitude. It determines how people perceive you. And 9 times out of 10, it will determine whether you get a job or not. Remember that you are the public face of your employer's company. Would you, if you owned the company, would you want you to be the first person they greet as they come through the door? Do you put the person with the crabbiest personality that people think they've been pickled on your front desk to handle your customer service issues? Of course you don't. You put the person there that looks the part, that acts the part, that has the right kind of attitude. And this is vitally important to success if you're going to be interviewing for a job or most things you do in life. Nobody likes to see a person who looks like they just got out of bed, wandering around, that hasn't combed their hair, brushed their teeth, and put on clean clothes. So how do you build strong nonverbal skills? First of all, you establish and maintain eye contact. Remember I mentioned the show Lie to Me? One of the first indicators a person's lying is that they can't look you in the eye. It is a mark of honesty. If you're interviewing for a job and you can't look the interviewer in the eye, he begins to feel like you're trying to hide something. Use your posture to show interest. Sit up. Maintain eye contact. If necessary, sit on the edge of the seat to show that you're interested. Reduce and eliminate physical barriers. If you have problems with attention deficit, don't sit in the back of a room. Sit in the front seat where you don't have so many barriers. Improve your decoding skills. Study people. Learn to understand how they react and they act. And then probe for more information. One of the great nonverbal skills is that look of interest, taking notes, maybe checking sources if it's not a problem on the internet is important. And interpret nonverbal meanings in their context. Realize that maybe the person rolling their eyes has nothing to do with you, but there again, you don't let it pass. Associate with people from diverse cultures. One of the greatest parts of my education has been to be able to interact with people from all over the world. Appreciate the power of appearance. This is vitally important. Watch yourself on a video is also a great way to understand why people react to you the way that they might. And enlist your families and friends, of course, to help you with that. One thing we also need to talk about is the dimensions of culture and understanding how culture affects communication and the use of social media and communication technology. You need to be very, very careful in understanding this idea of culture. Culture is defined as the complex system of values, traits, morals, and customs shared by society, a region, or a country. A powerful operating force that molds the way we think, we behave, we communicate. And be aware that other cultures simply do not do things the way you do them or your culture does them. There are a lot of things that are high context, a lot of things that are low context. Low context tend to be logical, linear, and action-oriented. Favor explicit messages that they consider to be objective, professional, and efficient. High context cultures tend to be relational, collective, intuitive, contemplative, and leave much unsaid, and they transmit communication cues by posture and voice and gestures and facial expressions. So be sure that you pay attention to what kind of culture you're in. Some are very much relational and intuitive and think about things quite a bit. Others tend to move very quickly. You also have individuals and collective ideas to think about. The low context cultures tend to prefer initiative, self-assertion, personal achievement. They believe in individual action and personal responsibility, and they desire a large degree of freedom in their personal lives. On the other hand, those in a high context culture prefer group values, duties, and decisions. They emphasize groups and teams and organizations, and they encourage acceptance of group values, duties, and decisions. As far as time, this is another major issue with cultural things. Time's precious to low context cultures. Time correlates with productivity, with efficiency, and money. Time is money. And keeping someone waiting is considered to be extremely rude. On the other hand, in high context cultures, time is seen as unlimited, never ending. It's an opportunity to develop interpersonal relationships. They don't hold very well to appointments and schedules. Just take your time and enjoy and learn that way. There is some ways of marking these that are important. Hofstede's Power Distance Index compares societies based on how far the less powerful members of organizations and institutions accept an unequal distribution of power. In high power distance countries, subordinates expect formal hierarchies, embrace relatively authoritarian paternalistic power relationships. And in the low, they consider themselves as equals to their superiors. Relationships between individuals of varying power tend to be more democratic, egalitarian, and informal. These are things you need to think about in dealing if you're traveling internationally. As far as the communication style, again, high context rely a lot on nonverbal skills. So what you're saying nonverbally is vitally important. And they put that into the total picture in order to communicate. Meanings are embedded at many sub-levels that you need to understand. The low context emphasize words, directness, and openness. People tend to be informal, impatient, and literal in those contexts, and it's important to understand that. Technology and social media will also affect these tremendously. Social media is a great bridge in cultural differences as well as to reinforce them. The online environment may deepen feelings somewhat of isolation. Some people, those that need that vital personal touch, are going to feel somehow disconcerted with being online. Global businesses adopt technology to a varying degree, revealing each culture's values and norms. Some countries still value face-to-face interaction. In real life, as online, we kind of gravitate toward the people who seem like us, and so we will feel more comfortable with those. So how do you erase these cultural differences? Regional and cultural differences do persist, and media designers try to adapt to cultural preferences. However, aside from language, regional differences on Facebook and Twitter do seem to be relatively minor and of less importance. So how do we overcome negative cultural attitudes, and how do we prevent miscommunication in such a diverse world? This is something that we all have to work on because we're not born this way. We learn these negative cultural feelings. And to do that, we need to kind of curb ethnocentrism, or kind of thinking about a person's ethnic background as being a major point. Build cultural self-awareness, understand generalizations and stereotyping, that's what we're doing. Try to remain open-minded and practice empathy and understanding. Those are very important. A stereotype is an oversimplified behavioral pattern applied uncritically to groups, and it's usually negative. In dealing in intercultural oral communication, always encourage accurate feedback by using cues to be sure that they understand what it is you are talking about. Use simple English, speak slowly, enunciate clearly, check for comprehension. Realize that if you come from a particular section of, say, the United States, that you carry with not only the English language an accent that sometimes can be very difficult to hear or understand. Try to listen without interrupting, and always follow up your meeting with writing. This is one sure way to be sure that you communicated effectively. Look for I messages. Smile when it's appropriate. Accept blame. Don't appear to be angry. Really will help in many considerations. In order to improve our written skills, always work on local styles and conventions in your writings, which will help you to be able to bridge these gaps. Sometimes hiring a translator works. Use short sentences, short paragraphs. Try to avoid ambiguous wording. Cite numbers carefully. Those things are all very important. Workplace diversity. North American corporations operate globally, and the domestic workforce is becoming a lot more diverse, and it's going to have to in order to function well in the world in which we live. So how do we define diversity? It comes in a lot of different factors these days: race, religion, age, gender, national origin, physical ability, sexual orientation, ethnicity. We need to be very much aware of these, and we are growing very diverse in our societies. As we grow these things, then they become a great benefit to workforce diversity. They benefit our customers, our work teams, and our businesses. Most employers today are looking for a diverse staff to be able to respond to increasingly diverse customer base around the world. Team members with various experiences are more likely to create products that consumers want. Not everyone likes what I like. Not everyone likes what you like, but we need to produce for people other than ourselves. Consumers want to deal with companies that respect their values. More and more companies are refusing to buy from companies that are not diverse and are not willing to become diverse. So how do you communicate with diverse audiences on the job? Get training, that always helps. Understand the value of differences and learn about your cultural self. What are your hangups? What do you consider to be things that that might need to be changed? Don't jump to conclusions and don't make assumptions. And try to build on similarities, and these will be very, very helpful. In conclusion, this presentation has many, many things that we need to incorporate into our lives, and in order to be a better employee, even to be hired in today's business world, you're going to have to look at yourself very critically to see what your weak points are and how you can change that if you want to work and function in the world that we live in. Thank you.